The Grand Assembly Hall of the United Galactic Council was unlike anything Earth had ever imagined. Towering spires of polished metal curved toward the sky, reflecting the endless glow of nearby stars. Alien banners of countless colors hung from the ceiling, each representing a different species, a different world, a different history. The air buzzed with a mix of languages, some spoken, some transmitted telepathically, and some vibrating as musical tones. Humanity's ambassador Eleanor Vance walked carefully through the crowd, her human form seeming both ordinary and extraordinary among so many unusual shapes. Eleanor was tall, with a calm demeanor that seemed to steady the chaos around her. She had spent years studying alien cultures, learning their customs, understanding their fears and hopes. Today she was here to deliver a proposal, a plan to encourage shared technology, cooperative exploration, and cultural exchange among the galaxy's many civilizations. It was a dream that could unite the stars, and Eleanor knew the weight of the responsibility resting on her shoulders. As she stepped onto the central platform, silence fell over the hall. Hundreds of eyes, some human-like, some completely unlike anything she had seen, turned toward her. Eleanor took a deep breath. She began to speak, her voice calm and measured, carrying not only words but a sense of peace. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, she began, we gather here not as competitors, not as rivals, but as neighbors. Across the stars, every species faces challenges, but together we can face them stronger. Together we can build a future where knowledge and understanding are our greatest weapons, not anger or fear. Her words drew nods and murmurs of approval. She continued, showing images of Earth's history, the struggles, the mistakes, and the triumphs of humanity. She spoke of wars that had once torn nations apart, and of the courage to rise from those failures to form alliances. She spoke of art, science, and philosophy, emphasizing that intelligence and empathy were stronger than aggression. Then, without warning, the assembly hall's lights flickered. A ripple of unease spread across the crowd. From a darkened corner, a group of beings Eleanor had never seen before moved forward. Their forms were jagged and angular, almost like living sculptures, their eyes glowing with sharp intensity. They approached the platform, moving faster than the Council's security protocols could react. The leader of the group, a creature with silver-black skin and crystalline limbs, stepped forward. Instead of attacking with weapons, it unleashed a pulse of energy, not harmful but disorienting. The lights around Eleanor flickered, her holographic presentation distorted, and the assembly erupted in confusion. This was a deliberate attempt to humiliate, to disrupt, and to challenge humanity publicly. Eleanor steadied herself. She could have shouted, she could have demanded retaliation, but she did none of that. Instead, she raised her hands and spoke, slowly, clearly, with a calm tone that cut through the chaos. Friends, she said, we are all here to communicate, to learn, to grow. Let us not allow fear or anger to cloud our purpose. This moment, difficult as it may seem, is an opportunity, not to respond with violence, but to respond with understanding. The hall fell silent. The alien attackers paused, as if surprised by her words. In all the galaxy, most species would have erupted in retaliation, meeting aggression with aggression. But humans were different. Humans had survived countless disasters not by strength, but by adaptability, creativity, and reason. Eleanor's calmness shone as a living example of that principle. Security forces gently restrained the intruders, not with lethal force, but with magnetic barriers that immobilized them. They would face questioning, investigation, and consequences. But Eleanor did not emphasize punishment. Instead, she turned back to the assembly. This is the moment, she said, when we show the galaxy what it means to be human, not through anger but through patience, not through destruction but through cooperation. Let us remember why we are here. For the first time that day, a true wave of applause rippled through the hall. Many aliens looked at one another in astonishment. Some whispered to their neighbors, unsure if humans were fearless, foolish, or something entirely new. After the assembly, Eleanor returned to the human delegation's quarters. Her team, a mix of diplomats, scientists, and cultural advisors, looked concerned. "Ambassador," said Dr. Wren, a linguist from Mars, "do you think they intended to harm you?" "No," Eleanor replied calmly. "They wanted to provoke, to test us. And in testing, they revealed their own fear." She paused, looking out over the endless expanse of stars visible through the hall's enormous windows. "The galaxy doesn't know humans yet. They see us as fragile, as primitive in comparison to them. But moments like this, they will remember how we respond." Meanwhile, the alien faction that had disrupted the assembly was being carefully questioned by the Galactic Council. Unlike most species, humans did not demand immediate punishment. Instead, they offered to help understand why the attack occurred, to bridge the gap of misunderstanding. The gesture was shocking. Other species whispered among themselves, struggling to comprehend the human approach. Back in her quarters, Eleanor prepared her next message for the council. She planned to present evidence of the rogue faction's misunderstandings, cultural misinterpretations, historical grievances, and miscommunication that had escalated into this incident. Humans were going to solve this problem not with force but with reasoning, negotiation, and cultural insight. By nightfall, news of the incident had spread across the galaxy. Alien media were filled with reports of a human ambassador who had faced public humiliation and instead of responding with anger, had chosen wisdom. Messages from planets light years away poured into the human delegation's inbox. Some were congratulatory, some were confused, but all shared one sentiment: humans were unpredictable. And unpredictability, the galaxy learned, could be far more powerful than weapons. That evening, Eleanor walked through the gardens of the Council's orbital station. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly beneath alien moons. She reflected on humanity's journey. On Earth, humans had survived famine, disease, and countless wars. They had risen not through brute strength, but through ingenuity and resilience. This was their advantage, and today she had shown it to the galaxy. Her assistant, a young human diplomat named Jalen, asked, "Do you think they'll attack again?" Eleanor smiled softly. "If they do, they will find the same response. Calm, patient, and logical. But more than that, they'll see that trying to provoke humans only teaches them something about themselves." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the rogue faction's leaders were quietly observing the reports. They expected humans to strike back, to show dominance. Instead, they saw calm, reason, and an unexpected willingness to understand. Confusion rippled through their ranks. They had misjudged humanity completely, and for the first time they began to question whether humans were dangerous because of force or dangerous because of intelligence. In the following days, Eleanor and her team worked tirelessly. They gathered historical records, analyzed cultural patterns, and prepared a detailed report for the Galactic Council. Every piece of data was meant to show the rogue faction, not as enemies to punish, but as neighbors to understand. Humanity's strategy was clear: education over intimidation, dialogue over destruction, and unity over revenge. By the end of the week, the incident that had shocked the Council transformed into a symbol of human potential. Delegates from dozens of species began requesting meetings with Eleanor. They wanted to understand how humans could face provocation without anger, how they could maintain dignity without weapons, and how they could turn humiliation into influence. Eleanor knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were unpredictable, yes, but not because they were weak or violent. Humans were unpredictable because they thought differently. They solved problems differently. They chose patience when others chose power. And that, Eleanor believed, was humanity's greatest strength. As the stars sparkled beyond the Council's windows, Eleanor sent a final message to Earth. Today we did not respond with anger. We did not respond with fear. We responded with reason. Let the galaxy remember this moment, not as a day of humiliation, but as a day humanity showed what it truly means to be human. The aftermath of the assembly incident was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Across the council chambers, Delegates from dozens of star systems debated in hushed tones. Some were angry at the rogue faction, while others whispered their admiration for humanity's calm response. Yet no one could deny one fact. Humans did not behave as anyone expected. Eleanor Vance returned to the human delegation's headquarters, aboard the Council's orbital station. The sleek corridors were filled with quiet activity. Analysts, scientists, and diplomats were working together, reviewing every piece of footage from the assembly. Holographic images of the rogue faction flickered across walls, their angular forms and crystalline limbs captured in intricate detail. Dr. Wren, the human linguist, approached Eleanor with a tablet in hand. Ambassador, preliminary analysis suggests that the rogue faction's attack was not coordinated with the rest of their species. Their actions appear impulsive, maybe even misguided. Eleanor nodded. That fits with what I observed. They wanted to provoke but not destroy. Their behavior is rooted in misunderstanding, not malice. We need to understand why they acted this way. The human team began what would become a monumental investigation. Unlike most species, humans did not rush to punish. They approached the problem systematically, combining science, culture, and empathy. They studied the rogue faction's history, cross-referenced political records, and analyzed past interactions with other species. Every piece of data revealed a complex story of fear, miscommunication, and cultural differences. Humans discovered that the rogue faction, known as the Zillions, had a deeply ingrained fear of species they considered unpredictable. Humans, with their flexible thinking and problem-solving abilities, fell into this category. The Zillions' leaders believed that demonstrating dominance over humans would prevent future challenges, but they had misjudged humanity entirely. Eleanor called a team meeting. The human delegation sat around a circular table, holograms hovering above, showing star systems and cultural data. We have a choice, Eleanor said. We can respond with aggression, as most species would, or we can respond with understanding. Our investigation is our weapon. Knowledge is our strength. Jalen, the young diplomat, leaned forward. Ambassador, how do we ensure the Zillions understand our approach? They expect retaliation, maybe even fear us for it. Exactly, Eleanor replied. We don't want to shock them with violence, we want to shock them with reasoning. We will show them that humans face conflict differently. That is more powerful than any weapon. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Zillions were growing uneasy. Their attempt to humiliate humans had backfired. Delegates from other species began visiting the humans, asking for insights on diplomacy and strategy. The Zillions had thought humans would be easy to intimidate, but humans were turning the incident into an opportunity for dialogue. The investigation team worked tirelessly. They reviewed footage from dozens of council sessions, analyzed communications from the Zillions, and even conducted interviews with other species who had interacted with them. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The Zillions were not inherently hostile. They were cautious, suspicious, and deeply protective of their traditions. Humans had missteps in their own past that mirrored this behavior: fear of the unknown, suspicion of outsiders. Eleanor decided to take a bold step. She requested a private audience with the Zillion leaders. The council approved, curious to see how humans would handle the situation. The Zillions, expecting a confrontation, were surprised when Eleanor arrived alone, carrying nothing but her tablet and a calm expression. Leaders of the Zillions, Eleanor began, her voice steady. We come not to demand punishment nor to assert dominance. We come to understand. The Zillion leader, a towering figure with crystalline limbs reflecting light, tilted its head. Its voice resonated like glass, sharp and precise. Why would humans approach us without anger? Most species would retaliate. Eleanor smiled softly. Because anger solves nothing. Violence solves nothing. We have studied your history, your culture, and your fears. We understand why this incident happened. And now we offer a choice. Work with us, or continue down a path of misunderstanding. The Zillions exchanged cautious glances. They had expected confrontation, but instead received logic, reasoning, and empathy. It was unsettling and fascinating. Back, At the human headquarters, Dr. Wren was analyzing linguistic patterns from Zillion messages. Ambassador, their language shows stress markers. They are defensive, not aggressive. If we approach carefully, we can guide them toward dialogue. Eleanor nodded. Exactly. We will not attack. We will not humiliate. We will educate and connect. That is the human way. Over the next few days, the humans launched a galaxy-wide initiative. Using advanced communication networks, they sent cultural programs, scientific presentations, and educational broadcasts to star systems far beyond the Council. They shared Earth's history, highlighting human ingenuity, collaboration, and problem-solving. They invited alien species to participate in knowledge exchanges, workshops, and virtual simulations. The response was overwhelming. Delegates from distant worlds contacted Eleanor personally, praising humanity's approach. Some were curious, some skeptical, but all were intrigued. Across the galaxy, whispers began. Humans face conflict without violence. Humans turn humiliation into dialogue. The Zillions watched these developments closely. They began to see themselves not as powerful adversaries, but as participants in a larger conversation. Their fear of humans lessened, replaced by curiosity and respect. Eleanor knew the next step was critical. The investigation alone would not be enough. Humans had to demonstrate collaboration in action. She proposed a joint project, an orbital research station where humans and alien species could work together on advanced technology, cultural studies, and environmental research. The Zillions were invited to participate, their participation optional but highly encouraged. When the Zillions agreed, the Council was astonished. Humanity had turned a public insult into an opportunity for cooperation. The galaxy watched, fascinated. This was unprecedented. No other species had ever transformed an attempted humiliation into a collaborative project so quickly and peacefully. At the construction site of the orbital research station, humans and aliens worked side by side. Holographic schematics floated in the air, showing interlocking modules that combined technologies from multiple species. The humans' attention to detail, patience, and problem-solving abilities impressed everyone. Even the Zillions, who had initially intended to provoke, began to respect humanity's capabilities. Eleanor walked among the teams, observing interactions. Humans explained their designs patiently, listened to alien suggestions, and adapted strategies when new ideas emerged. Their approach was simple, yet revolutionary: collaboration, understanding, and adaptability. One Zillion engineer, speaking through a translation device, admitted quietly to Eleanor, "We thought humans were weak. We see now they are different. Strong in ways we did not expect." Eleanor smiled. "That is the point. Humanity has survived because we are adaptable, creative, and willing to learn. Strength does not always mean weapons. Sometimes it means understanding and cooperation." As the orbital station grew, so did humanity's reputation. Across star systems, news of the project spread. Species that had previously doubted humans began to seek partnerships, eager to learn how this new form of diplomacy worked. Humans had done something unprecedented. They had turned an attack into an educational opportunity, transforming suspicion into respect. Even within the Galactic Council, discussions shifted. Humans were no longer seen as newcomers or weak species. They were recognized as innovators, mediators, and leaders. The rogue faction's leaders began to reconsider their approach. They had tried to provoke humans only to discover that humans thrived under challenge. Back in the human delegation's quarters, Eleanor reviewed the progress reports. Jalen approached her, eyes wide with excitement. "Ambassador, the Zillions have agreed to participate fully. They are even suggesting ideas for the station's design." Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. "They are learning what humans have always known. Cooperation is more powerful than conflict. Patience and understanding can turn enemies into allies. This is only the beginning. The galaxy is watching, and humans are showing them a new way." The orbital station's first module was completed, a gleaming testament to interspecies collaboration. Humans had done more than investigate the incident. They had transformed it into a symbol of possibility. Every module, every design, and every collaboration was a message. Humans did not respond to aggression with aggression. They responded with reason, creativity, and unity. Across the galaxy, species that had once underestimated humanity began to whisper, "These humans, they are unlike any we have known. They do not fight as we fight, yet they accomplish more than any of us imagined." Eleanor looked out the observation window at the station floating against the backdrop of stars. The rogue faction's attempt to humiliate humans had failed spectacularly. Instead of shame, it had produced admiration. Instead of anger, it had produced collaboration. And above all, it had begun to reshape the galaxy's understanding of humanity. Humans were unpredictable, but not because of violence or strength. They were unpredictable because they thought. The orbital research station shimmered like a jewel against the endless black of space. Modules designed by humans and aliens alike rotated slowly, powered by solar arrays and fusion cores. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with quiet energy, not of alarm, but of purpose. Humans moved among alien engineers, scientists, and diplomats, explaining schematics, offering suggestions, and listening carefully to every idea. Eleanor Vance walked the corridors with calm precision, observing the interactions with satisfaction. It had been weeks since the attempted humiliation of the human ambassador. In that time, humanity had transformed the incident into a symbol of collaboration and reason. Yet Eleanor knew that a single peaceful demonstration was not enough. The galaxy needed something larger, something visible, something that could show not only humans' patience but also their vision. The idea came to her one evening as she observed the construction of the orbital station. "We need to invite the galaxy," she said to Dr. Wren. "We need a summit not just here but across systems, a gathering where humans and all willing species can come together, exchange ideas, and work towards something extraordinary." "Doctor?" Wren raised an eyebrow. "You mean like another assembly?" "No," Eleanor said firmly. "This is not politics. This is collaboration. A demonstration that humans do not respond to provocation with anger, but with creation, innovation, and partnership." The plan was ambitious. Eleanor and her team sent invitations to every council member, including the Zillions, who had gradually become participants rather than adversaries. The summit would take place on the orbital station, with modules and meeting halls prepared for hundreds of species, all equipped with translation networks and interactive holographic systems. The central theme, building together instead of tearing down. As the first waves of delegates arrived, the station filled with a spectacle unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved among humans, exchanging ideas, demonstrating tools, and sharing stories. For the Zillions, the experience was unfamiliar and unsettling. They had expected humans to respond with retaliation, to assert dominance through fear or threat. Instead, they saw collaboration, patience, and organization at a scale they had never imagined. Eleanor began the summit with a speech. Her voice resonated through the chamber, translated seamlessly into dozens of languages. "Friends of the galaxy," she began, "we have faced conflict, misunderstanding, and fear. But humans believe that knowledge, cooperation, and respect are stronger than anger or weapons. Today, we invite you to see this in action, not as observers, but as participants." The delegates listened, some with skepticism, some with curiosity, and some with awe. Eleanor outlined the structure of the summit: collaborative workshops, interspecies design challenges, and shared problem-solving sessions. Humans would guide the process, not dictate it. Every species was encouraged to contribute equally. The first challenge was a demonstration of cross-species construction. Teams composed of humans, Zillions, and other species were given the task of designing a shared module for the station. The challenge required combining alien technologies with human methods of reasoning and creativity. At first, confusion reigned. The Xilians insisted on precise, rigid designs, while humans suggested iterative approaches, rapid prototypes, and flexibility. Other species struggled to adapt to humans' collaborative style, which relied on discussion, experimentation, and adjustment. Eleanor intervened, not to impose authority but to facilitate understanding. She explained human methods, showed how mistakes could be lessons, and encouraged dialogue. Slowly, the teams began to function as units, blending alien precision with human adaptability. "What's remarkable," whispered a delegate from the planet Vayara to a colleague, "is how humans turn disagreements into progress. They don't argue to dominate, they argue to understand." By the second day, the summit had become a spectacle of creativity. Holographic models of shared stations, transport networks, and communication systems grew in real time. The humans' approach allowed ideas to flourish. Delegates who had once doubted humanity's abilities began to see their unique strength, adaptability, patience, and the capacity to turn conflict into innovation. Meanwhile, the Xilians observed carefully. They had once considered humans weak, unpredictable, and naive. But now they saw humans not only capable of extraordinary problem-solving but also skilled in diplomacy. Humans had managed to turn a previous insult into a galaxy-wide demonstration of unity. On the third day, Eleanor introduced the summit's boldest initiative, a shared orbital construct. This massive structure would serve as a central hub for research, cultural exchange, and interstellar communication. Delegates would work together to design and assemble it, each contributing elements from their own technology and philosophy. "This is more than a building," Eleanor explained. "It is a statement. A statement that collaboration is stronger than division, that knowledge and understanding are the galaxy's greatest assets." The project captivated every participant. Humans guided discussions, showing how complex systems could integrate multiple species' contributions. Xilians provided structural expertise, Vayarans offered energy solutions, and humans coordinated the process, ensuring that every contribution had value. As construction progressed, small conflicts naturally arose. Different species had competing ideas and different priorities. But humans approached these conflicts differently. Instead of force or domination, they encouraged dialogue, compromise, and testing solutions. Delegates were amazed at how quickly disagreements could become productive. At one point, an alien engineer from the planet Rayloth questioned a human suggestion. "Your method seems inefficient," the engineer said. "Why not impose a single plan and follow it precisely?" Eleanor smiled. "Because efficiency is not always the same as effectiveness. Sometimes the best solution emerges from discussion, iteration, and collaboration. Humans call it adaptability. And sometimes being flexible allows us to achieve results no single species could accomplish alone." By the fifth day, the Central Hub's first modules were completed. The structure gleamed with colors, textures, and technologies from multiple worlds. Humans had guided the process, but no single species dominated. The project symbolized unity, patience, and intelligence. Delegates who had once doubted humans now expressed admiration and respect. Even the Xilians, who had attempted to humiliate humanity weeks ago, could not hide their astonishment. One Xilian leader approached Eleanor privately, speaking through a translation device. "We believed humans would respond with anger or aggression. We see now that we underestimated you. Your strength is different from ours. Your way of thinking, it changes everything." Eleanor nodded calmly. "That is humanity's way. We survive not by overpowering, but by understanding. We achieve not by defeating, but by collaborating. That is how we turn challenges into opportunities." News of the summit spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. Alien media broadcast images of humans and aliens working side by side, building complex structures and solving problems together. The story of the rogue faction's failed humiliation turned into an example of human ingenuity. Across star systems, species began to reconsider how they perceived humans. The summit's success also inspired new dialogues. Species that had once avoided human contact now requested partnerships. eager to learn from humans' collaborative methods. The galaxy began to recognize that humans were not just survivors, but innovators, capable of transforming conflict into progress. Eleanor looked out from the summit's observation deck, watching the hub grow. Stars stretched infinitely beyond the station, but humanity's vision now shone brightly among them. Humans had not only responded to humiliation, they had transformed it into a demonstration of intelligence, patience, and leadership. Jalen approached her, eyes wide with awe. "Ambassador, the galaxy, it's watching, and they're impressed." Eleanor nodded. "Not just impressed, Jalen. They are learning. They are beginning to understand what humans have always known, that true power comes from reason, creativity, and cooperation, not from fear or weapons." In that moment, the summit became more than a demonstration. It became a turning point. The galaxy realized that humans were unpredictable not because of recklessness or violence, but because of their ability to think differently, solve problems differently, and act with purpose and patience. As the final modules of the hub were assembled, the Zillions made a formal gesture of acknowledgement. It was subtle, almost ceremonial, but its meaning was clear. Respect. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans had faced humiliation and turned it into opportunity. They had faced expectation and turned it into collaboration. And in doing so, they had reshaped perceptions of what a species could achieve. Eleanor watched as delegates mingled, exchanging ideas and building connections that would last decades. She knew that the summit's impact would ripple through the galaxy for generations. Humans had shown not just survival or intelligence, they had shown leadership, creativity, and the power of unity. The orbital hub floated silently against the backdrop of stars, a gleaming symbol of cooperation and creativity. Its modules, designed and assembled by humans and alien species working side by side, reflected the harmony of different minds, coming together. Inside, the air was filled with excitement, discussion, and occasional laughter, the sound of collaboration rather than conflict. Eleanor Vance moved through the corridors with quiet purpose. Weeks had passed since the summit began, and humanity's influence was growing steadily across the galaxy. But Eleanor knew the next stage was crucial. It was not enough to build structures or impress delegates. Humans had to ensure that understanding, respect, and collaboration extended beyond the summit. They had to show that even former adversaries could become allies. The Zillions, once hostile and determined to humiliate humanity, were the first to demonstrate change. Their engineers now worked closely with humans, sharing designs and contributing ideas freely. Yet some hesitation remained, a residue of fear and pride. Eleanor knew it would take more than technology to transform their perceptions fully. She needed a demonstration of humanity's approach to conflict itself. She called a meeting with the Zillion leaders, carefully preparing her words. The holographic conference room hummed softly, images of the hub floating in 3D above the table. The Zillion leaders, silver, black, and crystalline, studied Eleanor with sharp curiosity. "You ask us to trust humans," the Zillion said, voice resonating like finely tuned glass. "We have been cautious. We do not easily forgive attempts at humiliation." Eleanor nodded calmly. "We do not ask for blind trust. We ask for observation. Watch how we approach problems. Watch how we treat others even when provoked. We respond with reasoning, not rage. With creativity, not aggression. That is humanity's strength." The Zillions studied her words carefully. They had expected confrontation. They had expected demands or ultimatums. Instead, they were met with patience and insight. Slowly, curiosity began to replace caution. Meanwhile, across the summit, humans continued to demonstrate their unique abilities. Delegates from other species noted how humans could integrate diverse perspectives, resolve disagreements, and turn confusion into productive outcomes. A challenge had been issued: design a new transport system for the hub capable of adapting to different species' needs. At first, the team struggled. Xilians preferred rigid efficiency, Vaerans emphasized speed, and humans suggested flexibility and iteration. Disagreements flared, but unlike typical disputes, humans intervened not with authority but with reasoning. They encouraged each team to explore every possibility, test solutions carefully, and refine approaches based on evidence rather than pride. Jalen, observing the discussion, whispered to Eleanor, "Ambassador, they're starting to follow our method. Even the Xilians are listening." Eleanor smiled. "They are learning. Humans solve problems differently. Once other species see the benefits, respect follows naturally." By midweek, the transport system was operational, integrating designs from all species. The success was more than technical. It symbolized the galaxy's first step toward genuine collaboration. Former adversaries now worked as equals, each contribution recognized and valued. But Eleanor wanted to go further. She proposed a galactic knowledge exchange, where humans and other species would share information about their worlds, histories, and cultures. The Xilians hesitated, wary of revealing too much. Eleanor approached the situation carefully. "Knowledge is power only when shared," she said during a council discussion. "Isolation breeds fear. Understanding breeds strength. We invite you to share your wisdom not as subjects but as partners. Humanity thrives on learning from others. So can the galaxy." The Xilians finally agreed, cautiously at first. They shared insights into their energy systems and architectural innovations, while humans shared problem-solving methods, environmental strategies, and examples of historical learning. The exchange surprised many delegates. Species that had expected secrets and dominance now experienced transparency, cooperation, and mutual respect. Across the hub, smaller incidents continued to test humanity's principles. Minor disagreements arose, misunderstandings flared, and tensions occasionally surfaced. Yet in every situation, humans demonstrated calm reasoning. When a Vaeran engineer misread a Xilian schematic, a human guide explained patiently, offering examples and diagrams. When a dispute over module design emerged, humans facilitated dialogue until consensus was reached. Delegates began to see a pattern. Humans did not dominate, nor did they yield blindly. They influenced through understanding, persuasion, and adaptation. Their approach was unlike any other species the galaxy had known. The Xilians, in particular, began to change. Initially defensive and suspicious, they gradually adopted human methods of reasoning and collaboration. One Xilian engineer, speaking privately to Eleanor, admitted, "We believed humans were weak because they did not respond with aggression. Now we see, they are strong in ways we did not understand. They teach by example." Eleanor's team continued to expand the hub, adding modules for research, culture, and education. Each module was a joint effort, blending alien technology with human innovation. The humans' ability to mediate, facilitate, and guide without imposing dominance became the standard approach for the summit. Other species began to request workshops and training sessions in human methods. The galaxy watched closely. News of the humans' approach spread across star systems. Reports highlighted how humanity had faced humiliation and provocation without aggression, turning challenges into opportunities for growth and cooperation. Many species were shocked. Some admitted they had underestimated humans entirely. Even the Xilian Council, once intent on proving human inferiority, now acknowledged humanity's influence. Their leader addressed Eleanor in a formal message, translated for the entire summit. "Humans have faced us with patience, insight, and innovation. They respond to provocation not with destruction, but with creation. We did not expect this. We now recognize their strength." Eleanor read the message carefully. She knew the Xilians' acknowledgement was more than words. It was a turning point. Former adversaries had become allies, convinced not by fear, but by human principles. The summit reached its peak with a demonstration project, a galactic communication network designed to link multiple star systems for sharing knowledge, research, and cultural information. Teams composed of humans, Xilians, Vaerans, and other species collaborated to design the system. Humans facilitated, suggested approaches, and encouraged adaptation, but every species contributed equally. The result was a success, beyond expectation. Data flowed seamlessly, ideas transferred instantly, and cultural programs reached dozens of systems. The project demonstrated what humans had been teaching all along. Cooperation was more powerful than competition, understanding more effective than conflict. Eleanor observed the results with satisfaction. She turned to Jalen, who had been helping coordinate the teams. "Do you see it?" she asked. "This is what we wanted. The galaxy is learning not because we forced it, but because we showed it. Humans respond to challenge with thought, not fear. With collaboration, not conflict." Jalen nodded, eyes wide. "It's incredible. Even the Zillions, after all they tried, they're helping now. They respect us." "Respect," Eleanor said softly, "is stronger than fear, and understanding is stronger than power. This is how humanity will influence the galaxy, not through weapons but through example." As the summit concluded, the orbital hub stood as a shining testament to human principles. Formerly skeptical species expressed admiration. Delegates from distant systems sent messages of gratitude and curiosity. The Zillions, once adversaries, now joined discussions about long-term projects, innovation, and interstellar cooperation. The galaxy began to understand a new truth. Humans were unpredictable not because they were violent or reckless, but because they solved problems differently. They turned challenges into opportunities. They turned conflict into collaboration, and they turned humiliation into influence. Eleanor knew the summit had achieved something extraordinary. Humans had faced provocation and doubt, yet their principles, reason, patience, adaptability, and creativity, had prevailed. The rogue faction's attempt to shame humanity had failed spectacularly, replaced by admiration, respect, and alliance. In quiet moments, Eleanor reflected on humanity's journey. On Earth, humans had faced countless disasters, wars, and misunderstandings. They had survived and thrived not through power, but through ingenuity and moral courage. Now, the galaxy was beginning to recognize the same truth. The Zillions, watching, humans not as threats but as partners, whispered among themselves. "They face us with calm. They solve problems with thought. They do not fear conflict, they shape it. How is this possible?" The orbital hub glimmered against the black expanse of space, a beacon of unity and creativity. The modules, constructed with input from humans and dozens of alien species, reflected the galaxy's diversity and potential. For months, the station had been a place of collaboration, learning, and innovation. And at its center, humans continued to quietly demonstrate the strength of their principles: reason over rage, creativity over destruction, and unity over division. Eleanor. Vance moved through the corridors, observing alien delegates working together with human teams. Engineers from the Veyarans collaborated with Zillions on energy designs, while humans explained problem-solving methods with patience and clarity. It was a scene of harmony, yet Eleanor knew that the final step, the galaxy's full recognition of humanity's approach, was still ahead. She gathered her team in the central chamber of the hub. Holographic displays floated above the table, showing the progress of projects, connections between species, and data from hundreds of collaborative experiments. "We have reached a pivotal moment," Eleanor said. "The Zillions are now fully participating. Other species are requesting partnerships. But this is not enough. Humanity must demonstrate once and for all that our way, reason, collaboration, and understanding, is not just effective, but transformative." Jalen, the young diplomat, leaned forward. "How do we do that? We've already shown our methods in construction, communication, and research." Eleanor smiled. "We expand the scope. We demonstrate the human approach on a galaxy-wide scale. We create something that unites knowledge, culture, and exploration in a single initiative. Something that will leave the galaxy no choice but to recognize humanity's influence." The idea was ambitious. Eleanor proposed the creation of a galactic knowledge network, a living, interconnected archive of knowledge, culture, history, and science, accessible to every species willing to contribute. But the network would not just store information. It would encourage collaboration, innovation, and shared problem-solving. Species could learn from one another, experiment together, and build projects that spanned star systems. The Council hesitated at first. The network was unprecedented. It required trust, transparency, and cooperation, qualities that many species had yet to embrace. Eleanor addressed their concerns. "Fear will only hold us back," she said. "The galaxy has seen the human response to provocation. We do not retaliate. We do not dominate. We collaborate. We learn. And we invite others to do the same. This network is not a weapon. It is an opportunity for all of us." Slowly, one by one, species agreed to participate. The Zillions were the first to commit fully, submitting data about energy systems, architecture, and cultural traditions. Other species followed, sharing art, history, technology, and scientific discoveries. Humans guided the integration process, ensuring that contributions were respected, understood, and used to foster further collaboration. The construction of the network was a marvel. Holographic nodes connected star systems across light years, allowing species to interact in real time. Humans facilitated workshops and discussions, helping delegates navigate differences in language, logic, and cultural priorities. Misunderstandings arose naturally, but humans turned every obstacle into a lesson, using patience, reasoning, and empathy to guide solutions. Across the galaxy, news of the project spread rapidly. Alien media reported humans' extraordinary approach. They had faced humiliation and provocation. Yet instead of responding with anger, they had created a system that united species in knowledge and cooperation. The story of the rogue faction's failed attack became a legend, a tale of human ingenuity, patience, and moral strength. The Zillions, who had once sought to embarrass humans publicly, now expressed admiration openly. One Zillion counselor, speaking to a group of delegates, said, "Humans do not fight as we fight. They do not dominate as we dominate. And yet they achieve more than any of us could alone. They are remarkable." Eleanor observed the reactions quietly. This was the moment she had envisioned, the moment the galaxy fully recognized humanity's approach. But she knew the work was not done. True recognition required integration, not just admiration. Humanity had to show that its principles could guide the galaxy's progress. She proposed a final initiative, the Interstellar Collaborative Project, a series of challenges designed to test the galaxy's ability to work together. Humans and other species would face complex problems, energy shortages, environmental restoration, and interstellar transportation. Each challenge required collaboration, negotiation, and shared innovation. When the projects began, the results were astounding. Species that had previously distrusted one another now worked seamlessly. Humans did not command. They facilitated. They explained concepts patiently, mediated disputes, and encouraged experimentation. Their approach turned competition into cooperation, skepticism into curiosity, and doubt into respect. Even the Zillions, who had once been adversaries, emerged as enthusiastic participants. They shared techniques, offered solutions, and praised human methods openly. Across the galaxy, species that had underestimated humanity marveled at their effectiveness. Humans had proven that intelligence, patience, and empathy could achieve more than aggression ever could. News reports circulated throughout star systems, emphasizing the unprecedented transformation. Humans had faced an insult, and instead of revenge, they created opportunity. They had faced expectation, and instead of arrogance, they inspired respect. They had faced fear, and instead of retreat, they built bridges of knowledge and collaboration. Eleanor reflected on the journey. On Earth, humans had survived countless challenges, plagues, wars, natural disasters, through creativity, reasoning, and unity. Now, across the stars, they were teaching the galaxy the same lesson, that true power lies not in dominance, but in understanding, not in fear, but in collaboration, not in destruction, but in creation. The final ceremony of the summit was held in the hub's central chamber. Delegates from dozens of species gathered, their eyes reflecting awe and respect. The Galactic Council formally recognized humanity as a key mediator and innovator. Humans were honored not for conquest, but for leadership through wisdom and cooperation. Eleanor stepped forward to speak. Her voice echoed through the chamber, translated seamlessly for every species present. "Friends of the galaxy," she said, "we have faced challenge, provocation, and doubt. Humanity has shown that response does not require violence. That understanding, patience, and collaboration are stronger than fear. Today, we stand not as conquerors but as partners. Together we can explore, learn, and build a galaxy where knowledge and cooperation are the greatest achievements." The audience erupted in applause. The Zillions, once intent on humiliation, stood and bowed in recognition. Other species followed. Humanity had not only defended its honor, they had redefined it. In the following weeks, the Galactic Knowledge Network and the Interstellar Collaborative Project continued to expand. Species from across the galaxy participated, exchanging ideas, building projects, and forging alliances. Humanity's approach became a model for diplomacy, problem-solving, and interstellar cooperation. Even former adversaries who had once doubted humans now sought guidance and partnership. The galaxy had learned that humanity's strength was not in weapons, aggression, or dominance. It was in intelligence, creativity, empathy, and the ability to unite diverse minds. Eleanor stood on the observation deck of the hub, watching stars stretch endlessly into the void. She reflected on the journey, from the insult in the council assembly to the triumph of collaboration and understanding. Humanity had turned humiliation into opportunity, doubt into admiration, and conflict into unity. Jalen joined her, eyes wide with awe. "Ambassador, they're calling humans the bridge builders of the galaxy." Eleanor smiled softly. "Yes, not because we dominate, but because we connect. Not because we destroy, but because we create. That is humanity's true power, and the galaxy has finally understood it." Far beyond the hub, across millions of light years, alien species whispered among themselves. "Humans, they respond differently. They do not fight as we fight, yet they achieve more than any of us imagined. How do they do it?" And in that quiet realization, humanity's place in the galaxy was secured, not through violence but through wisdom, not through fear, but through understanding, not through conquest, but through collaboration. The galaxy had been shocked, not by what humans could destroy, but by what humans could build. And in that shock lay respect, admiration, and a new era of interstellar unity. Eleanor looked out at the stars one last time. She knew that humans had set a precedent that would ripple across generations. The galaxy had learned that true power was not in weapons, not in dominance, but in the human way, thoughtful, creative, collaborative, and compassionate.